Call this meeting to order, June 2nd, 2026. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States to the flag of the United States, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, good morning, everybody. We do have a quorum present this morning with all 5 commissioners in attendance. Commissioners, if you've had a chance to review the agenda and there are no corrections or changes, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tillman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. It's going to bring us to tab A this morning, which is the public hearing section. Before you this morning are 2 public hearings. First being Resolution 26-06-CL-01, a budget amendment to transfer funds within the Human Resources Department to increase the personnel line item and decrease operating. Joining us this morning is Accounting Specialist Rebecca Romero. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, this budget amendment is for the Human Resources Department. They are requesting a transfer of funds from their training budget to their personnel budget. This increase is due to an employee benefit cost. They had an employee that wasn't originally enrolled and then enrolled later on in the budget year. The transfer is being covered by their current budget allocation and will not affect the general fund reserves.
Very good. Thank you, Rebecca. Questions for staff on the budget amendment, commissioners? With none, we do need to open this up for public hearing. So at this time, if there's anyone online or in the audience that would like to speak to this specific budget amendment, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Jones.
move to approve Resolution 26-06-CL-01 in the amount of $7,200.
A motion to approve the resolution by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you later. Second item before you this morning is a notice of intended action for an amendment to the oversized and overweight vehicle and load regulations. And joining us this morning is Under Sheriff Joe Tomich, who has done the bulk of the work on this one. So appreciate that, Joe.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. So before you this morning is a notice of intended action to amend some of the language in the regulations of the oversized and overweight regulations that were approved and adopted by the board on March 3rd of this year under Resolution 2603CC-02. Over the last couple of months, yourself, Mr. Legursky, and then Mr. Fletcher, and I have all been involved in a working group to try and work through some of the issues that came up in the original regulations that were missed. That working group plus some additional input from local industry partners have brought us to some language changes under sections 4, 5, 6, 15, and 16 of those regulations. So to briefly summarize what the changes are, under section 4, this will allow the issuance of an annual Class B permit instead of individual permits. That was one request from local industry that would ease some of the regulatory burden of having to permit each movement of their vehicles and loads. This will just allow a single permit to be issued for a 12-month period. Another change under section 4 is for the rig move permit. The input was that 80 loads, 80 Class B or C loads were too much for the reality of what is actually being moved on with rig moves. We've changed that, proposed to 45 Class B loads, maintaining the 5 Class A loads with that. And with that, there'll be a reduction in cost from $5,000 per move to $3,000 to reflect that change. Going on with those, we did a few table changes in there. Going into the exemptions under section 5, one thing that was brought up was a concern if we have to, when the highways are closed and we move oversized vehicles and commercial vehicles out to the events complex. Obviously, Yellowstone is a county road. One thing we didn't want to do to overburden that situation was to force permitting on that road under those situations. So this would exempt loads that are basically exiting the highways heading to emergency parking. That said, bridge crossings are not an exemption to that, and those will still have to be addressed individually. One of the biggest concerns through Public Works is the damage and wear to the bridge is being excessive. And that's been one of the successes so far of this program, is that we've been able to regulate some loads that should not have been moved on bridges that were previously being moved. We've been able to get those routed around, so we weren't putting 150,000 pound loads over 80,000 pound bridges. Probably one of the biggest amendments to this is an exemption for Class B through F loads traveling the less than 5 miles on certain Sweetwater County roads, provided that they're headed en route directly to or from the nearest state highway. So the roads that are proposed for that exemption would be Yellowstone Road, JY Road, Reliance Road, Winton, Wamsutter Crooks Gap, Blairtown, Lagoon, Laos Drive, the Landfill Road, McKinnon Road, County Road 1 north from the intersection at Wyoming 414, all county roads within the North Park or North Rock Springs subdivision between Signal Drive and Villa Lane, and then county roads within the Bureau of Reclamation's Eden Valley Irrigation Project. That is to keep our local industry who is traveling to and from their shop from having to permit. That was an oversight that we missed, and obviously extremely burdensome, and we didn't intend for those things. So Class B through F loads would be exempted on those roads for that first 5 miles. Under the fees section, adding the Class B annual permits for both oversized and overweight. We proposed an oversized annual permit of $900 and an overweight permit of $1,500. That is effectively the permit cost of 30 loads per year per vehicle. So those annual permits aren't to exceed 1 year, 1 calendar year from the date of purchase. That is also an amendment to it. And then there was just some cleanup language in there as far as adding the Class B annual permits to the application process, where Class C was already required an application. This adds Class B into that as well. We added some language to the Class C permits based off which are self-issuing permits. We added a little bit of language to that, such that when it is not feasible to obtain a Class B permit, we would prefer Class B to be issued because it is the easier way for us to track those loads. But we will issue some Class C self-issuing permits when there is an issue such as lack of network connectivity or another other kind of hardship that's identified by an industry partner that would prevent them from getting a Class B permit prior to their move. Other than that, the submission of fees, this changes to allow the Class B permits, annual permits, to be required payment at the time of issuance. And as far as application and accountability is concerned, we removed the requirement to attend a pre-purchase permitting class hosted by the sheriff's office. That was something we determined was not necessary in hindsight. So a little bit of language change to section 16, requiring applications to primarily be submitted through the online portal, but also allowing fax, email, or in person if otherwise unfeasible to do that. But the online portal's been the easiest way for us to handle these at this point. So with that, that is what I have as far as the actual amendments are concerned. I believe that Mr. Fletcher is here and probably has some comment that he would like to provide in this as well.
Very good. Appreciate it, Joe. I know you put a lot of work in that and kind of led the charge with more Gene's help. I don't think I helped really at all other than attending the meeting. So I appreciate your work there and for hearing out some of the concerns that Andy and some of the others brought forth that we could address and try and make work for both parties. So you went over it quickly, but I think you touched on it well, and I think everything that you've amended in there makes sense and hopefully is a good, reasonable solution for all. So thanks very much for everything you did in that regard.
Thank you for
Before we move on to public comment, is there any questions for staff in regards to the amendment? Well, thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
you.
We'll open it up for public comment. This is a public hearing. I believe Andy wanted to share some words. Good morning, Mr. Fletcher.
Morning. As most of you know, my name is Andy Fletcher. I'm the president and CEO of Bunning Transfer, a fifth-generation Wyoming trucking company based in Rock Springs. We move oil field equipment and operate crane services throughout the basin, so oversized and overweight permitting touches nearly everything that we do. I'm here this morning to express support for the amended permitting regulations and to thank the people who made them workable. Permitting isn't going away. Counties across Wyoming are facing real budget pressure, and finding ways to generate revenue from industries that use the roads heavily is an understandable response. Nobody in the industry is happy about increased costs, but we understand the reality. If we have to pay fees, what really matters is whether the structure is one we can actually operate inside of, and that is where this process made a difference. Under Sheriff Tomich, Chairman West, and Public Works Director Legursky were willing to acknowledge that there were sections of the original proposal that affected day-to-day operations in ways they didn't expect, and were willing to ask questions and make changes based on what they heard. The result is a framework that increases costs, but does so without getting in the way of doing business. That's a meaningful distinction, and one that shows Sweetwater County is willing to work with local businesses to find a solution that works for everyone. While there is still some work to be done, I'm certain there will be additional changes. I'm here on the record supporting these regulations and, more importantly, supporting the approach that produced them. I hope it sets the tone for how Sweetwater County and local industry work together through these issues going forward. I appreciate all of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate that.
Good morning, Kevin Hawley, Wyoming Trucking Association, based out of Casper. I don't know if this is rare for you guys, but I'm actually here to pay you a compliment.
Yes.
While certainly Mr. Fletcher touched on it, while industry never, or anyone, frankly, likes to pay more in taxes, permits, fees, more regulation, I do want to commend this county, your staff, sheriff's office, roads and bridge, the way they went about this and communicated with industry. A lot of times, at least in my role, we see law enforcement, the counties see one thing on one side of their screen. The trucking industry sees it one way. When you do this, I do that. Well, when they do this, I do that. So I really appreciate the opportunity for all of us getting together, being level-headed, talking through realities of operations, and coming to what I think is a very healthy, reasonable, and appropriate solution. So kudos to you and your staff for doing things right in Sweetwater County. With that, I want to say I do think there's probably still going to be some bumps along the road as we work out some of these things and new technology. We're here to continue to engage in open dialogue, and anything we can do, whether it's on this issue or anything else, please don't hesitate to reach out. But again, appreciate your leadership as well as Mr. Fletcher at Bunning. You guys have one heck of a trucking company down here, and we're kind of jealous that I wish we had them in Casper. So be proud of that, proud of what you're doing. Appreciate you and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks very much. Appreciate you coming down and for the words. We'll try and make it right. Obviously, a very important industry that we want to support as well. So thank you for that. Comments, commissioners? Commissioner Jones?
Just again, a thank you, Andy. Appreciate you reaching out and working with everybody, and appreciate the kind words, because no, we don't get those very often. So very much appreciated.
Any other comments? Still under the public hearing portion. Is anyone else that would like to speak to the notice of intended action for the amendment to the oversized and overweight vehicle and load regulations? Now would be the time. I don't even know if we have to have a public hearing because we're opening it up for public comment, right, John? Technically.
Correct.
Okay.
Just a notice.
Yeah.
So you'll have a hearing down the road.
So I'm going to close the public hearing that wasn't necessary because what we're moving forward with is a notice of intended action, which I believe kicks off a 45-day public comment period, which has been advertised. So if there are review and concerns or um, anyone that takes issue with some of these changes or has suggestions for more, whatever the case may be, all written comments must be received before July 17th, 2026. And then the board will then have a public hearing here on their July 21st meeting to adopt, amend, or whatever comes from the public comment period. So if there are no questions on the process, once again, thank everyone for their teamwork and cooperation on that. I think it was very effective, and we'll look forward to making the necessary changes. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the notice of intended action for the amendment to the oversized and overweight vehicle and load regulations as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thank you all. Appreciate it. It's going to move us right along into the county resident comments and concerns portion of the agenda. This time, if there's anyone online or in the audience that would like to address the governing body on any issues, now is the appropriate time. We do limit that to 3 minutes. Last chance. With none, we'll go ahead and close the county resident comments and concerns portion of the agenda. That's going to move us right along into tab B, which is the consent agenda. Before you this morning, Commissioners, are 5 items under the consent agenda. The first being the approval of the May 19th, 2026 meeting minutes. The second is the approval of the county vouchers, warrants, the expenditure approval listing, and the Commissioner report. Third is the approval of bonds. Fourth is a request to restaff multiple vacant positions in the clerk's office. And fifth is a request to ratify the Coalition of Local Governments scoping comments on the Bureau of Land Management Wyoming's 2026 fourth quarter competitive lease sale. Commissioners, I would ask if there are any wishes or requests to remove any items off of the consent agenda for further discussion. With that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Toman,
I would make that motion.
got a motion to approve by Commissioner Toman. I believe we had a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is unanimous. It's going to move us right along into Commissioner comments. And Commissioner Toman, the floor is yours.
It's my turn to buy lunch. I think we should go to the Thai restaurant. Just a little inside joke there. Sorry, guys. On May 20th, I attended the Conservation District Bitter Creek Kilpecker Creek Watershed Advisory Group meeting, their annual meeting. Heard updates on their watershed planning efforts. They have received a $25,000 grant from the Natural Resource Conservation Service to help with the drop structure planning and engineering. I have requested that the Conservation District have their watershed expert provide a brief update to the commissioners at our June 19th meeting. I think it's important to understand and know what that process has involved. On the 21st, I attended the Coalition of Local Governments. We discussed the repeal of the conservation land rule. Grazing regulation comments are due July 13th and will address production agriculture as a food source, remove conservation leases, and provide more flexibility. There was an update regarding Pacific Core Rocky Mountain Power selling Washington-based assets and requesting an 8.8% rate increase. CLG will provide comments and then we ratify those. CLG always comments on quarterly oil and gas lease sales, as you saw on the agenda today, and then we ratify them. We received updates on the Rock Springs BLM Resource Management Plan, Sage Grouse Amendment, and environmentalist litigation on the 2025 Sage Grouse Plan. So we're staying involved in the process because we don't know what the outcome will be. CLG Attorney Betancourt will attend the June 5th Forest Service Bridger Teton planning meeting, cooperator meeting in Pinedale. They would not let us be a cooperator, so we try to stay involved in the process through that. Comments are due June 12th for the EPA federal coal combustion residual regulations to move emission standards back. Kent Conley from Lincoln County reported on the PFAS working group meeting he attended. Don't ask me what PFAS stands for, but it's the foam used to fight fires on lithium battery type fires. They will review state contamination and check all the landfills for the presence of PFAS. We do not have any in Sweetwater County. The next CLG meeting will be July 23rd in Lyman. We're going to skip June. On the 27th, I attended Sheriff Gross Nichols' retirement party and wished him the best in his new job. Met with Candy Pendleton at the events complex regarding her budget and attended the open house for the new lab at the hospital. On the 28th, via Zoom, I attended the Golden Hour Senior Center meeting. They are preparing an updated orientation packet for their new board members. The employee policies and the fiscal policy and procedures will be updated in the near future. The cost of food continues to increase, but Tata and United Way, as well as the Green River City's $18,000 contribution, assist with this. They will request money from both these to help with their activities, part of the budget. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Questions or comments for Commissioner Tomlin's report? If not, Commissioner Richards, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. It's been a minute since I saw all of you last. I was gone for the 2 weeks after I saw you all at the first May meeting, so there isn't much to report, but I'll fill you in on what there was. On May 11th, I attended a regional economic development call hosted by the Wyoming Business Council. On the 12th, I attended the conversation with Rocky Mountain Power hosted by the Sweetwater County Economic Development Coalition. My takeaway from that was we continue to have and will continue to have major roadblocks for new and expanding industries within our county when it comes to accessing available power capacity. It's a topic we're just going to have to continue to work on. On Tuesday the 19th, I did not have sufficient internet connection to attend our meeting remotely, so I couldn't participate, but I was able to watch a low-resolution YouTube feed and cheer you on for your short public meeting. I'm sorry I wasn't able to contribute, but I think you all made great decisions, especially when it came to awarding the 3 scholarships. So thank you for your work on that. On the 27th, I attended Sheriff Gross Nichols' retirement party at the training room of the Sheriff's Department. I want to thank John for his many years of service to our community, not just as our sheriff, but also in the many years before that he spent in law enforcement. In that same vein, yesterday I attended a reception at Southwest Counseling where they welcomed John as their new director and thanked interim director Marchetti for her time that she spent helming the organization. I also want to thank Melissa for the time and dedication she provided Southwest Counseling while they conducted the search for a new permanent director. I know she was relieved to be able to get back to just doing one job. I look forward to the leadership that John will provide that organization, especially as they continue to go through their restructuring process. Also on the 27th, I attended the ribbon cutting ceremony at the Memorial Hospital's new laboratory and Hospital Foundation offices. It's a beautiful facility, and I'm sure it'll be a great asset to the community. On the 29th, the filing periods to run for office closed. It looks like Chairman West and myself filed for re-election, and I'm happy to see new faces put their names forward as candidates. With the closing of the filing period, I also see that Commissioner Slaughter has chosen not to file for re-election. Rob, I want to thank you for your service, your leadership, and especially your friendship. 4 years ago, the voters elected the 3 of us to help bring a new direction to county government, and it's been a pleasure and a privilege to serve alongside you as we navigated those waters. I completely understand and support your decision to begin a new chapter in your life, although I certainly will miss working with you. Over these last 3 years, I've learned a great deal from your experience, your judgment, and your commitment to Sweetwater County. Our community is better because of your service, and I want to wish you and Mariella the best in the next chapter of your lives. Knowing Mariella, I suspect she already has a few plans in mind. Tell her she has to wait a little while longer, though, because you have 7 more months of work to do. So don't think you're done yet. Yesterday, I remotely attended a call hosted by the Wyoming County Commissioners Association and the Wyoming Association of Municipalities. The purpose of the call was to catch everyone up on the effects of recent legislation passed regarding historic horse racing and new authority that local governments will have in granting and renewing permits for those operations in our community. As you all know, there was kind of a laissez-faire loophole created in the original statutes that allowed historic horse racing machines. A loophole that Sweetwater County found when it tried to deny a permit many years ago, leading to a lawsuit. I think the legislature did a good job cleaning up some of that language, and I look forward to working with our partners in the HHR industry in the future. Looking forward, tomorrow I have a Power Coalition call and a NACO policy resolution discussion. On Thursday, I'll attend the Chamber Enterprise Committee meeting at the hospital. On Friday, we have a First Fridays Federal Partners meeting. On the 8th, I've been invited up to Lander for a town hall style meeting to discuss Sweetwater County priorities in the Red Desert with a group of local conservationists. On the 9th, I plan on attending Simplot's 50th anniversary celebration. And on the 10th, I plan to attend, is it the 9th? I might have some of those days messed up. On the 10th, I plan to attend the open house for the Miller Generation Station Project, which is a 2,000 megawatt gas-fired power production project in Carbon County. That is a project that will fall under industrial siting, and parts of Sweetwater County are considered within the area of influence for the project, which should qualify us for at least a small percentage of the impact funds. This will be the 5th major industrial siting project that we've been attached to, and if you are all supportive, I'd be happy to take point on that one as well, unless one of you would prefer to do it.
You're it.
If that's what you wish. I'll coordinate with Land Use Director Bingham and Chief Deputy County Attorney De Leon to work on that process and keep you all advised as the project moves forward. On the 12th, I will join my fellow HPLA leadership graduates for a check-in call. On the 15th, I will be upstairs for the swearing-in ceremony for new Circuit Court Judge Dean Stout. And then, of course, before our next meeting on the 16th, I'll be back upstairs with all of you for the swearing-in ceremony for newly appointed District Court Judge Clark Stith. Before I leave off, I want to point out that yesterday was National Dinosaur Day, and Wyoming state dinosaur is the Triceratops, in honor of my grandson, who will be celebrating his 10th birthday on Friday and is an avid dinosaur lover. I'm wearing this great Triceratops furniture on my suit that he got me for Father's Day a few years back. So happy birthday, Kai. Today is also my middle son's 34th birthday. So happy birthday, Brandon. Finally, June is also National Great Outdoors Month. So get out there and enjoy Sweetwater County's open spaces and public lands, as well as our many great county parks. I think that is all for me today, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate the report. Questions or comments for Commissioner Richards?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Slaughter?
just a thank you to Commissioner Richards for the kind words. I really appreciate it. I will address a little bit more in my comments. So thank you.
Very good. Any other comments? Now, if you're, jokes aside, if you're willing, I think you've done a tremendous job on the industrial siding. I'm happy to help out where I can, but you've set quite the foundation for that process. So if you're still willing, I think you have our full support.
Happy to continue doing it.
And if there's no other comments, Commissioner Jones, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the 20th, I attended the Mountain West Trails Conference. I was asked to be a panelist in a breakout session on the subject of off-highway recreation, the changes that have taken place, and the future direction of off-highway recreation. I was joined by Forrest Kaminga, Program Manager for Wyoming State Trails, Sandra Sanderson, Outdoor Recreation Liaison for WYDOT, Wade Allison for the Utah State Off-Highway Vehicle Manager, and Mark Tesoro, Wyoming Office Outdoor Recreation Manager. I think it was a great conference, and there were a lot of good conversations. So appreciate all the people that put time and effort into that to bring folks from the Western United States to discuss outdoor recreation. Excuse me. On the 27th, I attended the Board of Health meeting. Normal business was conducted. We did have I assume, a final discussion regarding the money available for rural health care from the One Big Beautiful Bill. Seems there really isn't much available as far as funds for the Board of Health, so that's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Also on the 27th, attended a luncheon workshop with various people from our communities and Eric Barlow to discuss needs for our county or possible growth directions and topics that prevent growth. Also on the 27th, I too attended the retirement party for Sheriff Grossnickel. I'd like to thank John for his 30 years of service. I think something that really has always shown through for me is his honesty, his integrity, and is caring for our communities. I know he's moving on to another chapter in life, and he'll be equally successful at Southwest Counseling. Truthfully, I think it's a win-win for everybody. Also on the 27th, I attended the grand opening for Memorial Hospital Sweetwater County lab expansion. That facility is incredible and will benefit anyone who requires the need of the lab, along with the MHSC staff. I was asked at the last minute to read a letter from Governor Gordon, thank you, Candy, regarding the lab expansion and healthcare at MHSC. I would like to thank Governor Gordon for sending his thoughts and well wishes, though. I'd also like to thank this commission, who before me set aside the $3 million towards the project, the State Lands and Investment Board for $4.36 million grant, $1 million from the Hospital Foundation, and about $350,000 from the hospital itself towards the project. All told, the lab expansion is just over $8.7 million investment in our communities and our citizens. So all good things going on up there. On the 28th, I attended what may be our last planning meeting for the 250th off-highway ride from Evanston to Cheyenne. We feel like we are ready to give final information to the participants and feel we are pretty well organized. We will find out for sure at the end if we were organized or not, but with this being a first-time event, I'm sure there'll be some improvements that'll need to happen, and we'll learn those as the ride takes place. But I think we are pretty well organized. I think Commissioner Richards said everything I could possibly say about Rob. Gonna miss you. Appreciated your time. Learned a lot from you, and you better be sitting here from time to time, keeping tabs on us, making sure we're doing the right things. Finally, and most importantly, I'd like to wish my father a happy birthday. This must be birthday day. My dad is a young 87 years old today, still active with golf, and of course, putting up with me. So happy birthday, Dad. I love you. And that concludes my report.
Thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate the report. Questions or comments for Commissioner Jones? If not, I believe I'm up next and I'm winging it again. So here we go. It's been all things budget, definitely budget season, and I look forward to the workshop later today. And it's been a challenging one. I think, as always, we'll find our way, but lots of moving numbers and, the change of the ad valorem tax collection is, I think, probably been one of the more difficult things we've had to deal with up here. And we just never really can give much advice or direction to some of those entities we fund until about now. And then it's crunch time. So things appear to be looking more in the favorable direction, but I guess we'll see where things shake out later today. But I certainly appreciate those that have reached out and wanted to have interactions and discussions relative to their individual needs and interests within their organizations. Had various meetings for the oversized and overweight vehicle permitting discussion, which we've already addressed this morning, so I won't bore you with any more in there, but appreciate everyone's time that went into that. Over Memorial Day, we had a fire suppression line break underground at the detention center. Just wanted to say thanks to the sheriff's office and public works staff for jumping on that on a busy holiday weekend and providing the necessary fire watch to keep minimal effect for the inmates there, and that has been repaired and they're on their way. Had a handful of constituent calls and complaints relative to a couple of the different county roads, and I've been working with Gene on getting those addressed. I attended the Events Complex's monthly meeting, largely discussed the parimutuel agreement relative to HHR and the long process that I've drug out for that. That's obviously on the agenda today before you, and we'll look forward to having more discussions in that regard. They have recently completed their Aspen Hall renovation. We got a quick tour of that, and I believe 95% or more of the project was done in-house and has been a tremendous upgrade for their complex and their facility. And so if you get a chance, reach out and go check that out. It's going to be very nice. They've also received their silo project for the Wyoming 250 grant, and we'll begin work, I believe, this week with starting to pour concrete and get that ready for, I believe, fair was their goal. Also attended Gross Nichols' retirement party, Sheriff Gross Nichol, and appreciate everything he did in his 30 years for Sweetwater County. I wish him well in his new endeavor and know he'll do the right thing and have some very good forward thinking in regards to helping out Southwest Counseling and some of the different needs and matters that are important to our community. Was unable to attend the open house for the Memorial Hospital Sweetwater County lab expansion that evening due to coaching my kiddo in baseball. So unfortunately, apologize for having to miss that, but priorities are priorities. The following day, however, he was sworn in by Sheriff Grossnickel as deputy for a day, which was quite the experience. And that's a pretty cool program the sheriff's office does. And you got to fly the drone and do all kinds of good things that they provide in that operation. And so appreciate Sheriff Grossnickel's, I guess, final swearing in. And immediately after that, he had other graduation and things to attend. So very cool experience for a 6-year-old. He was beside himself and wore his badge the entire weekend. So shout out to the sheriff's office for connecting with the community and all the good things they do. I've got the Public Works report. I'll try and cruise through. The combined facility over at Public Works has had the ongoing generator issue. They do have a solution. They will be essentially replacing the generator in the weeks to come here. Continued work over at Southwest Counseling and helping them with some of their irrigation and HVAC needs. The HHS building, Health and Human Services transition is going well. I believe they had it ready to go by the middle of last month, and so that'll open up opportunity for the clerk, treasurer, and the VSO offices, as well as WIC once we get through some of the different contract needs relative to WIC in the state. White Mountain Library HVAC project is going out to bid this week. It's partially grant funded to replace the condensing units and boilers at the White Mountain Library. The water line repair at the detention center went well. That's what I just spoke to. All of the yearly fire inspections have been completed, and staff is working through the minor findings and all of those reports. The maintenance crew handled 121 work orders in May. Over at Road and Bridge, staff is continuing their spring maintenance of all the county roads. Mother Nature has helped on and off throughout the spring, which has been a tremendous help, although the 18 inches of snow in Wamsutter was a little excessive. However, they needed water trucks in that area within a week. That was just a couple weeks ago. We will start our yearly application of mag chloride on June 22nd. Staff is continuing to clean culverts and cattle guards and preparing for the mag season. Engineering, the Justice Center parking lot seal project started on Monday with cleaning of the various seal coat areas. This project should be completed by the end of this week. The Rock Springs Youth Home roof project is complete and final advertisements are out. Rock Springs Youth Home feasibility study is going well. They've had several site visits from the consultants and will continue with weekly meetings. The kickoff meeting for the Green River Courthouse feasibility study went well. The architect has some great ideas and will represent them on some drawings so that we can start giving them feedback on layouts and space. The pre-work for the Green River Courthouse elevator modernization project is ongoing. The contractors completed their study of the mechanical area. Our electrician verified the backup generator power status, and we had a consultant pull various samples within the elevator shaft and car for asbestos testing, which is required for all projects. The Laos Drive County Road 1243 project started last Tuesday, and the contractors started constructing the trickle channel and locating all the utilities that are in the corridor. The design of the Green River Food Bank outdoor food storage lockers has been completed. I believe some of you were on that email chain. The food bank has reached out both at their facility in Green River and Rock Springs and wants to install an outdoor food storage locker that you can go up to, and it's automated. And so obviously with Green Rivers being here at the old Roosevelt School, there's some coordination that's taken place there, and Gene came up with a design and a drawing to allow for it. And so he's been working together with different contractors to help facilitate that. As it sits, it doesn't appear there's going to be any cost to the county, but we'll continue working through that. The Parks and Recreation Department is off and running for the season. They're almost fully staffed with seasonal workers, so they're getting a lot of things accomplished and ready for the summer season. And there's various pictures within that report of some of the different projects that were mentioned. Just a reminder, we are going to delay the start of our meeting in 2 weeks on the 16th to 10 a.m. so that we can attend the swearing in of the Honorable Judge Stith, which will take place upstairs at 9 a.m., which is when obviously our meeting starts. So we're going to kick that back to a 10 a.m. start and have an action-packed agenda, it sounds already in the making. And Rob, I've got a whole list of comments, man, but you're still commissioner for half a year, so I'm going to wait until December. But you know how I feel about you, so stand for any questions. Floor is yours, sir.
Very much appreciated, Mr. Chairman. the week of the 20th through the 27th, I spent in Texas celebrating a granddaughter's high school graduation. It was really an excellent time and a foreshadowing of what things will look like 7 months from now, I think. So it was very nice to be able to do that and get away. On the 28th, I prepared for meeting number 5 of the Sublet Antelope Migration Corridor Local Working Group. On the 29th, I conducted that meeting. The local working group deliberated recommendation for the corridor. The ultimate decision of the group was to recommend designation of the 8 corridor segments we were charged with evaluating, essentially recommending designation of the corridor as presented in the governor's charge. Great feeling to get this accomplished and get the process behind me. Thank you very much on that. That's been a big thing for the last 4 months. So that will open up some time for this next 7 months to do some other good things here in the county. Later that day, I was informed the governor will be visiting the city of Green River on Friday. I was asked to relay this information to the other commissioners and elected officials and invite them to a luncheon held at noon that day at City Hall. And then they'll also be holding a tour of the Tomahawk Building and a review of what's taken place with Flaming Gorge Way here. On the 1st, I spent the day reviewing the agenda for today and following through on several items for the Specific Purpose Tax Joint Powers Board. Several requisitions had to be resubmitted, and the annual budget report needed to be filed with the state by the end of the day. Also, yesterday, I reviewed and edited the final recommendation letter to Governor Gordon on the Sublet Antelope Migration Corridor. The report will now go out to local working group members today for approval and should be delivered to the governor later this week. Several hours were spent over the course of the last week reviewing budget requests and other budget reports for today's budget workshop. Unfortunately, due to being out of town for the graduation, I missed Sheriff Gross Nichols' retirement party. I did reach out to John. I appreciate everything he's done. I wish him the very best, and I too think that this will be a win-win for Sweetwater County. So once again, wish John the best in that. I also missed the lab opening that night. Had intended to make both of those, but unfortunately was not able to due to flight problems and things of that nature. So felt bad that I missed both of those things. And as was previously referenced, on Friday, I made the decision not to refile for election. Not going to say that it was the hardest decision that I've ever made, but it was a very hard decision. Mariela and I spent a lot of time over the last couple months talking about this. So many positives from working with this group and doing things for Sweetwater County for almost 40 years. So tough to kind of say the final goodbye and do that by not filing. I want to thank everybody here. This commission has been great to work with, made some great friendships. That's the most important thing that's come from this, I think. I think we've done some really good things for Sweetwater County. I hope to continue doing that. I'm not going to disappear, and you will see me at these meetings from time to time. So I just felt like at this time, that was the best choice for me. And I appreciate all of the nice comments, and I'll look forward to your comments in December, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Questions or comments for Commissioner Slaughter? By the way, I have to attend a kindergarten graduation during lunch, so this would be an excellent time to go to the Thai restaurant since we're buying.
That's a cop out.
You're welcome for that arrangement.
It's a go one for you. Don't worry.
That concludes the commissioner comments portion of the agenda. Job well done as always, commissioners. And we will continue marching forward. It's going to bring us to tab C, which is an action presentation, which is the action presentation items portion of the agenda. And the first item before you is the vacancy notice for the office of Sweetwater County Sheriff. Within your packet, I have prepared a letter in regards to the vacancy and the necessary statutory process that unfortunately we recently went through with a different elected office. I trust you've had a chance to review that, and this is the notice that needs to be sent to the Sweetwater County Republican Party Central Committee that officially designates the vacancy and kicks off the process. Once again, that process will then Start the timeline of 15 days, whereas the Central Committee shall select 3 persons qualified to fill the vacancy and transmit the name back to the Board of County Commissioners. At which time, once we have that notice, we will have 5 days to fill the vacancy by appointment of one of the 3 appointees that were nominated to hold the office. So at this time, I'd ask if there's any questions in regards to the vacancy notice. If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the vacancy notice letter prepared for the office of Sweetwater County Sheriff and authorize the chairman to sign and submit to Chairman Nemec of the Sweetwater County Republican Party Central Committee as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. I believe I saw Mr. Nemec here. We'll get that signed and right over to you, sir.
You might tell the public the process, what we have to do now, or is that later?
That is Mr. Nemec's plan. No, she just asked.
The process of what has to be done.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, once I receive the notice of the vacancy, we will designate a meeting for the Central Committee, which will be June 13th, Saturday at the Green River campus of Western Wyoming Community College. The Central Committee will interview candidates, and then we'll make our selections from there and turn right around and punt the ball to the commissioners.
Yeah, so once they receive the official notice from us, and once we get it signed here, that'll kick off the application process. And they'll have information in regards to that. And then at that meeting on the 13th, the precinct committee men and women will vote on the top 3 nominees to bring back before us. So anything we can do along the way, I think it's pretty straightforward at this point, but
Yes, sir. This is going to be a difficult one for me.
no doubt.
When do they have to file by with the party? When do they have to let you know by?
By the 10th.
And I assume like last time you'll have information and notice going out in regards to the different dates and deadlines and
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to share with the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
any other questions? Okay, that's going to bring us to item number 2, which is the approval of the 2026 County Historic Pari-Mutual Events Distribution Agreement between the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners and the Sweetwater County Events Complex. And in your packet, there are 2 versions. One of them is the final clean version, and the other is the red line version that highlights some of the different changes. Just to quickly highlight some of those changes that took place. Obviously, the current agreement we've had expired at the end of the last calendar year, but the way the payments work, there wasn't necessarily a huge rush to get that reinstated. And so we have had some back and forth with Candy and the Events Complex Board in regards to the term and the percentage. Previously, we were working on a 3-year term, and it was a share of 30% of the money generated from the HHR to go back towards the events complex to utilize those funds specific to the grandstands arena area where obviously the horse racing takes place. Since then, and in relation with Wyoming horse racing, the events complex is more or less at a point where they don't necessarily have a whole lot of needs outside of perhaps the grandstands themselves to continue to put that money towards improvements. And so they had asked if they could structure this agreement in a way as though they could utilize the money towards the events complex grounds in general, and in return come off of the county's capital committee list. And so more or less this would help fund their capital improvements. That language is in there. There is a reduction from 30% down to 20%. The term was extended to go through December 31st of 2030, which aligns with their individual agreement they have with Wyoming Horse Racing. The thought behind that is they would like to utilize the money from this towards the exterior shell on the indoor arena. And by allowing basically the next 4 years to do that they can utilize that money towards basically one side of the facility per year, if you will, to make their way around the interior and exterior shell of the indoor arena. Aside from that, I believe it limits it to the 1% that is currently shared, the portion from the state. And it also identifies that the statute provides that the county, city, or town receiving an amount under the paragraph within the statute may credit that amount to the state fair account, which would obviously be the events complex. And so there is a little pressure on there to the cities, which I have also met with both mayors in that regard, and that more or less the events complex is hosting these events, and we are sharing some of our profits, and the cities are sharing none. And obviously, the maintenance that goes into those is being a county facility on our behalf. And so, just as a reference, in the year 2025, the city of Rock Springs receipted in 1.2 million. So there is some pressure there that the cities should participate, and also perhaps some pressure on Sweetwater County being one of the host sites for the racing, that maybe some legislative change in regards to that 1% should be adapted accordingly. So those are the bulk of the changes. I don't know, Candy, if you'd like to speak, or Mark, to any of the others. It's been kind of an ongoing process, a lot of back and forth, a lot of just me taking time to figure out exactly how all these intricately work together. I think it's a great relationship we have, and they've done a lot of good things with those monies and are looking to expand on that. And obviously, no one wants to see a reduction, but we tried to be fair in that regard, and I'll hand it over to you, Candy.
I don't have a lot to add other than I appreciate Commissioner West's dedication to this. It has been a long process. I think we started back in, I don't know, November, December to get through this. But I do have, our board has approved the agreement as written. So I do have the signed copy from our board here if you guys choose to move forward with that. We do appreciate it. The last building we have on our grounds to make improvements on is the indoor arena. It is the original building from 1976. And so it needs some serious work. We have given up on the idea that we can do it all in 1 year just because it's such a huge project. So as Commissioner said, our plan is to sort of prioritize that and just start with the north end, replace doors, replace siding, re-insulate, and just work our way around the building. And we think we can use this money. Plus, we get a match from Wyoming Horse Racing. So Wyoming Horse Racing gives us about $150,000 a year in capital. So we put those two monies together, and I think we can make some nice improvements out there. That's it. I'll stand for questions.
Thanks, Candy. Questions for Candy or myself in regards to the amended changes for the updated agreement?
Thank you for taking the time to share with me. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I do have something to give you for the silo project, the book I talked about.
Oh, good.
All right, well, I stressed about this for months, and it looks like we're good to go. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the 2026 County Historic Parimutuel Events Distribution Agreement as presented, and authorize the chairman to sign.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And
Candy.
thank you all for your
Thanks.
continued support.
Oh, thank you. Going to bring us to item number 3, which is the cooperative agreement for responsibilities between the Wyoming Department of Family Services Child Support Program and the Sweetwater County Clerk of District Court. And joining us this morning is Clerk Chetterbach. And good morning to you.
Chairman, Commissioners, I am requesting your approval of the cooperative agreement for responsibilities between the Wyoming Department of Family Services, Child Support Services, and the Sweetwater County Clerk of District Court. This agreement has been in place in my office for over 25 years. It is currently signed by 22 of the 23 counties in Wyoming. To summarize the agreement, we enter some of the child support orders, and we also receive some payments in my office. The equipment that we use is all provided by the state of Wyoming. So the computers, the credit card machine, the software is all provided and maintained by the state of Wyoming. So I would request your approval to continue with this agreement.
Thank you, Clerk Chatterbach. Appreciate that. Any questions for the Clerk of District Court Commissioners? So I have a couple. I appreciate you taking the time to reach out to me to explain this program a little bit better. I know at the time you had said that there was a belief that we were one of the only ones that participated in this program, but I believe it was more the opposite, right? I think Lincoln
Correct.
County and maybe Teton were ones
There
that,
is one county who does not sign the agreement, which is Lincoln County.
okay. And so since the meeting, I just out of curiosity, so through my other hat, when we're paying child support payments, they're going directly to the state. So where is that difference? Is it people can choose to go through your office, or
Correct.
is it court ordered per se that some go through the state versus
That is
clerk of
correct.
district court?
We have a number of people who want to walk in and pay their child support and walk out with a receipt. So it's really a service to the residents of Sweetwater County.
Okay. And then there was, I think you went over when we met, but like a pay near me or something option that allows for the payment to be done through,
The SDU in Cheyenne,
it was somewhere locally where rather than paying necessarily your office, they can pay somewhere else through a pay near me partnership. Does that sound familiar?
we are the only place in Sweetwater County for an individual to make their child support payment.
Okay.
Yeah,
So otherwise it would just go directly to the state.
correct.
Okay. And were you able to figure out, I know you'd said you'd reached out to Lincoln County, but you weren't sure, hadn't heard back in regard to how they're handling
I don't know.
their situation.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions in regards to the agreement, commissioners? Commissioner Tillman?
Yes. Are you liking a new job?
I love it.
I love it. Do you have to pay for the staff to do this? Is it a full-time job?
It is not a full-time job, no. I have a clerk who is already entering child support orders from divorces, paternity cases, other orders. So it's just a little added responsibility that we have.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And you did say when we met that there was, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but I think for every application to receive this, I believe obviously DFS would get some money and then Sweetwater County would get some. It was like 160. We got 100 of that. Does that sound right?
Correct. So to file a civil case, it's $160. 110 of that is dispersed back to Sweetwater County at the end of each month. And we open about 5 child support cases each month. So last month we sent $8,626 in civil fees to the county.
Very good. Additional comments or questions? I'd still be curious to see what Lincoln County is doing. Just, I think it's a 2-year agreement, but maybe over that
Correct.
time we can figure out what
What
some of
they're
the different
doing?
options are. It sounds like it's working, and I don't think there was an understanding that there is some revenue being generated back to the county for providing the service. So I appreciate your work in that regard. If there's no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the cooperative agreement for responsibilities between Wyoming Department of Family Services for the child support program and Sweetwater County Clerk of District Court as presented. And I believe authorize the chairman to sign.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tillman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous.
Awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's going to bring us to item number 4, which is the approval of the 2025 Emergency Management Performance Grant Agreement. And joining us this morning is County Grants Manager Christina Marshall and Special Services Lieutenant Rich Fisher of the Sheriff's Office. And good morning to you both.
Good morning. So Sweetwater County was awarded $61,673 in emergency management performance grant funding from the Wyoming Office of Homeland Security. The project requires a cash match of 50% and expires on September 30th of this year. The purpose of EMPG funding is to assist local governments in enhancing and sustaining all hazards emergency management capabilities, such as prevention, mitigation, protection, response, and recovery. The funding will be used for the fiscal year 2026 payroll for the emergency management coordinator who's supervised by Special Services Lieutenant Rich Fisher of the Sheriff's Office. So the total grant project award is $123,346, of which half of it is grant funding and the other half is county funding. The required cash match for this project was included in this year's grant projects budget. The award was significantly delayed at the state level. We are at the end of the fiscal year. So following approval of this grant agreement, expenditures incurred as of July 1st, 2025 will be eligible for reimbursement. The total payroll projection for fiscal year 26 is actually $115,996, which is under that agreement budget. So we, per the grant agreement, can apply the remaining balance to fiscal year 27's payroll budget for emergency management. And in your packet, you have a point of contact form that needs to be signed, as well as the grant agreement. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or Special Services Lieutenant Rich Fisher is here too.
Very good. Thank you, Christina. Appreciate the background. Questions on the performance grant, commissioners? I've lost them all.
I'm here.
No, well, when it's well put together, there's not many questions that come about. So good job as always. I would entertain a motion to approve the 2025 Emergency Management Performance Grant Agreement and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents as presented.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Toman.
I would be happy to make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Toman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Aye. Opposed, nay.
Great.
Motion's unanimous.
Thank you.
You, appreciate it.
Just a side comment, though, they do have quarterly meetings for the Emergency Management Service, and they do like a commissioner to be there, and I've tried to attend most of those. I think some of the rest of you have also. So just a plug for your program.
Very good. It's going to bring us to item number 5, which is the District 4 Annual Operating Agreement. And joining us this morning is Sweetwater County Fire Warden Alan Adams. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. We have the 2026 District 4 Annual Operating Plan between the 5 western counties of Wyoming and the state and federal agencies to fight wildfires this year, which don't know where that's going to take us. But anyway, so in our annual meeting, we worked to clean up some redundancies, some of the wording. But the main change was we went from the reciprocal period from mutual aid from 24 hours to 12 hours, meaning we only have to 12 hours basically on our own budget that we would have to before we enter into cost share agreement. So it's decreased, which is going to help us in our favor on that point. But that's basically it. Asking for your signature to move forward, and with that, I stand for any questions that may have come from this letter that was sent out.
Very good. Thanks, Alan. I appreciate that. We received a constituent letter in the mail, although it was a constituent from Uena County, but it was in regards to this District 4 operating plan and some concerns that were shared with different, I guess, information that she had found online. Have you heard any feedback from Uena or anything in that regard? Or I don't know if you've seen the letter.
I've got a copy of that, and I went through it and basically addressed or quick answered all of them. So what's online is the 2022 version. So it is somewhat outdated. And that's actually one of the reasons, like I said, we worked on during our annual meeting to update that, take some of the redundancy out. So what's lacking in the AOP that you have is addressed in the master agreement, which overrides and oversees all of the agreements throughout the entire state. So in my opinion, I have no concerns over the letter that he sent. I can let's say, if you have any questions or concerns about any of those that he addressed, I can answer any of that you would like, if you need.
As long as you're comfortable and you're aware of it, that was
Yes, sir.
my bigger concern, but I would imagine, the different participating members for District 4 have gone through it, through your meetings, and everyone seems to be comfortable with it. Okay. Any other questions or comments on the agreement, commissioners? Well, if not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the District 4 Subgeographic Annual Operating Plan AOP, Attachment D for the District 4 specific procedures as presented, and authorize the chairman to sign.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Toman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Alan.
Sure.
Appreciate it. And oh yeah, there, you snuck in on me, Marty, or maybe you've been sitting back there. I'm not sure. We've got item number 6, which is a transfer of, is it Bauer mobile breathing air compressor. It says donation on your form, but we have quickly amended that to transfer, and I'll hand it over to Marty Durnovich, County Purchasing Director. Morning, Marty.
Good morning, Commissioners. So I was approached by the Farson Eden Fire District. We currently have the Bauer mobile breathing air compressor that we purchased back in 2006. It was used by our fire department for some time, and then when we kind of dissolved and went to the contracts, they moved the trailer up to Fire District number 1, and they were using it until they got their own. They got a new one, so they brought it back. So Alan said, we need to put this in the surplus sale. We have no use for it. And so then I was approached and was sent a letter, and I believe that's in your packets, from the Eden Farson Fire District, requesting if we had that, such a thing, that if we would be willing to transfer that to them. So I'm here today to ask the board for that transfer, and if the board does so approve that transfer, to allow the chairman to sign the title over.
Thank you, Marty. Appreciate that. Questions on the transfer of the equipment, commissioners? Commissioner Slaughter?
Mr. Chairman, Marty, just a quick question. It is fully depreciated, but what would you anticipate the market value of it would be at this time?
Yeah, I would say, just based on and I was going to give you guys a quick update on that as well while I was here. I'd say maybe $5,000, something of that nature.
Additional questions, comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to transfer a Bauer mobile breathing air compressor to the Eden Farson Fire Control District for fire prevention within Sweetwater County, and authorize the chairman to sign.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to support Farson Fire with this motion. Thank you.
Got a motion by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous.
I
And
might
if I
need
may-
that air.
Oh,
I might need that additional air.
you might. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, just to give the board an update on our surplus sale from the 430 Blair Avenue building and the old 1616 West Second Road and Bridge. Based on the leftover small tools and things that were in the building, we had those surplus sales, public surplus sales. We raised $4,200 on that type of stuff. And then we also held the vehicle equipment sale. We have one gentleman that is coming in this week to finish paying. He bought several items and asked if we'd give him an extension so he could gather up money to pay for it. And we agreed to that, and he'll come in this week and pay off the rest. But on that sale, we generated $108,000. So that all is put into your coffers. So just an update on that.
I appreciate that. I don't know why I didn't speak about that. I think that was 33 titles I had to sign, so appreciate that. But, no, job well done. I mean, it's good to get those
Yes, it was
books and
nice to
community and
get them out of there.
revenue with it too. So I know that's a
Yeah.
ongoing and difficult process, but your team does a great job.
Well,
So
thank you.
well done. Thanks, Marty. That's going to bring us to our last item before you on the regular business today for this morning's agenda anyway, which is the consideration of resolution on the agenda. It's 2506 CC01, which is to adopt the Sweetwater County Capital Projects and Major Expenditures Policy. We had a little bit of a clerical error on that, and so it should be resolution 2026-06-CC-01, just so we're all on the same page. And joining us back is Accounting Specialist Rebecca Romero. Good morning again.
Good morning. Since the policy was previously presented to the board, I did meet with the county attorney's office to review the policy and the resolution language. And we made a few revisions. The first revision was changing the wording from capital department to capital division. While the accounting structure within the system and our financials will remain the same, the wording change was made for clarification. The second revision was within the definition section of the policy. The phrase "but not limited to" was removed from the definition of capital projects and major expenditures. The county attorney felt that the language created too broad of a definition and could unintentionally lead departments to believe that all expenditures over 10,000 would require capital committee review, including standard operational expenditures. Removing the language narrows and clarifies the intended scope of the policy. The primary recommendation from the county attorney's office was that all elected officials and department heads should have an opportunity to review the policy and provide input prior to final approval. Because of that, the proposed action today allows the board to approve the policy with possible future amendments if additional feedback is received from the department heads and officials, or table the item until the next meeting for further review. If possible, I would like to move forward with the approval today, just so that I can begin restructuring the account codes and building those new structures and then updating the current funding request for capital. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Appreciate that. And I appreciate the work that you put into it. I know it was somewhat straightforward last time, but we were getting hung up on the idea of a department when in fact it's just a line item with the account, within the account that you're working on. But I do appreciate the capital division and some of the different changes that you've put forth. Commissioners, I'd ask if there's any questions or comments on the amendment to the policy and the proposed resolution. I think there was some concern which was addressed as Rebecca went over in regards to just being too subject but not limited to, I think is what you changed in there that allowed for a little more leeway within the departments that was shared with one elected office in particular. So that the idea was, you know, there could be other concerns that come from some of the electeds. We could postpone it, although I believe with that change, everyone should be pretty comfortable with the situation. So if you're good, I'm good, but I'm open to suggestions if you see it differently. And based off of your awkward silence, I will entertain a motion to approve resolution 2026-06-CC-01 for the resolution adopting the Sweetwater County Capital Projects and Major Expenditure Policy as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Rebecca. Appreciate your work on that. I know we're slated for 10:50. If we bump that to 10:30, which is about 15 minutes, are you good with that for the workshop? Okay. With that, commissioners, we are ahead of schedule by about 20 minutes or so. We do have a budget workshop slated for 10:50 today. We will bump that up to 10:30 if you're all good with that, and continue on with the next fund. So as it stands, for the regular business to come before us today, this meeting is adjourned. We will call this budget workshop to order, June 2nd, 2026. And joining us is accounting specialist Rebecca Romero to get the latest and greatest as to where we're at year to date. Hand it over to you, Rebecca.
Okay. So currently, the unspent funds of the budget year from 2026 is around 7.3 million. 2 million we're putting aside designated for committed capital projects. And that leaves 5.3 million, which I added to reserves. The current projected revenues is at 53.5 million. This amount includes the most recent updates from the county assessor's office and the revised property tax evaluation. The current funding request total is 58.9 million. This includes all county departments, component units, outside agencies, all capital requests, both committed and new. The general fund shortfall currently is at the 5.3 million. That is the amount that I sent you, the updated amount I sent this morning. So that leaves the current shortfall at the 5.3. And the updates from last workshop to this workshop for personnel and benefits is the 0% COLA for employees. The county commissioners, the 6-month that'll apply for that increase, an increase to the county attorney. And then all remaining elected officials reflect no salary increase. The public pension retirement contribution rate increased to 19.12. Law enforcement retirement contribution rate increased to 22.60. And the health insurance cost reflects a 5% increase for 6 months, effective January 1, 2027. So at this point, I don't know if you guys have any questions with what you've gone through the last 2 weeks, or if you would just want to start working on outside agencies or capital request.
Thanks, Rebecca. Appreciate that. Where is everyone at before we kind of jump into it? Is there any questions you want to start with? You want to go down the line one by one? Want some clarity first? Mr. Slaughter?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, Rebecca, I've got a couple things. First of all, I was really shocked to see that our revenue had increased to the level that it had. And when I looked, we have got on page 13 of the last document that you sent to us, the 45-page document, a miscellaneous revenue of $5,856,000. And if we go back to page 29, it actually references what that miscellaneous revenue is.
Yes.
That miscellaneous revenue is actually, we had talked about, and I hate to bring this up again, but ARPA PILT funding.
Yes.
In the amount of $3.5 million. And that ARPA PILT is a part of this $5 million revenue source that you're showing, if I'm reading everything correctly.
Yes, if we use reserves, I need to put it in the calculation somehow, or it doesn't give us, or it gives us a shortfall, and then you have to go through by hand and figure, okay, this is our shortfall, but if we use reserves, this is where we're at. So I earmark it and say, this is what we're using from reserves. And so that way, when you look at ClearGov or you look at the documentation, all of that is figured for you already.
For fiscal transparency, I just want it to be referenced that that is including that. So
Yes.
in effect, in looking at this once again, and I'm going to defer back to a spreadsheet that the chairman sent to us a couple of weeks ago that he referred to as plumber's language and breaking these things down much more simply. And so I've gone through and put all of the numbers in. When I do that, what is essentially happening is we have got, with the financial numbers that you've got in front of us, using that money from ARPA PILT and then funding the entire carryover of the $5.3 million, we are basically taking another $3.9 million from our reserves to fund this. So essentially what we would have, we started fiscal year 26 in our financials with $449,593. After subtracting that carryover, the $5,269,000, that would be found on page 29 of your report, where we're showing what the reserves are, we'd have to
Mhm.
pull that $5,269,000 out, which would leave our reserves moving forward for fiscal year 27 at $39,451,290. And that would be a $3,998,000 addition in reserves that we would be using to fund this budget with. So just want everyone.
Yeah, 'cause
on
we're
the
just-
same page to understand and.
Yeah, we're just swapping
Perspective this.
part of the carryover from the budget year 26 and allocating the ARPA money to payroll so that we can get that off of our books. And so it's just swapping the two basically, and
But
and then taking the entire carryover, 7 million, subtract the 2 million for committed capital, and then that's where the 5.2 comes from.
But in effect,
Yes.
we basically have a budget deficit of what I'm saying with this
Mhm.
budget of $3.9 million. So that's really where we're starting.
Yes.
If we want to use that ARPA built funding and use that, we're still starting with basically a $4 million deficit. And I think there's been some confusion about where we're really starting with that. And I think that's where we want to start, is looking at that. Now, the numbers that you brought us today changes that just a little bit, but.
Yeah, so the
there's
shortfall
$1,000.
with including the PILT, using the PILT for designated for payroll and then using the 2 million for committed capital leaves us with the shortfall of 5.3. So that includes everything.
But that's not, you're not using that $5.2 million of carryover in that. So
No.
you're saying if we added that $5.2 million in carryover, that we would basically be within a couple $100,000.
Yes, correct.
That's not what I'm seeing when we look at what our reserves would be with all of these transactions being made. There's still a $4 million decrease in reserves if we do that.
Yes, because last year our reserves, are you including the budget amendments that we had to do last year as well?
No, I'm using the original budget numbers that we had for our carryover
Mhm.
and what the projected carryover number is for this year.
Yeah, so starting with the 36 and then taking out the 3.4 and then add back in the 5.2
Right,
gives us the 44.
right. But if you take that 5.29 out, what you're not doing, you're coming to a balance. I'm not. I'm coming $4 million short of the balance that you're coming up with in doing that.
I guess, yeah, I'm not too sure what.
Well, if you look just at page 29. Okay. You're showing that our projected revenues or our projected reserves would be $44,721,000.
Yes.
Correct? But to get to the number that the chairman has used on this sheet, which you don't have that, I don't know that you've got it. We would take the $5.2 million, which is the unspent budget allocation, which is included in that $44 million, and subtract that, which would leave us a starting balance for our cash reserve for this year of $39,451,290. So to get to the point where, once again, using the numbers that the chairman has used, and that's what I've referred to with the commissioners,
Mhm.
our reserve funds, we've used a full $5.2 million or $5.3 million of carryover, and we would also be using $4 million of reserves to fund this at this point, roughly.
So the 5.2, I guess I'm confused. Are you trying to say that the 5.2 is already included what I'm trying to do?
No, I'm saying in the number that you're showing as our deficit,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't include using the carryover for that balance. If you use that carryover of $5.3 million, you would say that we would basically be within a couple $100,000 of being balanced at this point in time. Correct?
Yes, using the 3.4 and using 2 million of the carryover.
Right. And I'm still not coming up with that because I'm seeing a difference in what we're moving forward with our cash reserves to get to the balance. So our cash reserve balance is still down by that amount if we use those to get to that point. So, and
So
it's
I
not
think
clear to you what I'm saying, but
part of the confusion, if we just, so without using any PILT or carryover, the reserves are 44 million, right? So then we decided we were going to utilize the ARPA PILT money, which is the 3.488 million, to pay for payroll. So that reduces the 44 million down, obviously. And then we have the carryover amount, some of which we are going to commit to already allocated capital projects. So I guess in order to get down to the shortfall of, what is it, 128,000, I think, with the updated numbers, we would be spending basically the ARPA PILT reserve, but also all of the carryover. So effectively, the remaining amount within the reserve account would be 38 million.
Yeah, so I guess another way to look at it is if you take the reserves and your beginning balance and you add in the 3.4 back in, and then you add in the total allocation of the carryover of the 7 million, then that's going to give you your number. And then that would be like a subtotal. And then I'm saying subtract out 3.4 and then subtracted another 2 million for our committed capital. And then I'm letting you guys kind of decide where the 5.2, whether you want to use that or not, because that's not my,
Basically, we're saying the same thing. It's
yeah,
just-
I think
What
so.
I'm saying is rather than showing that ARPA PILT funding as a revenue,
Mhm.
which is how it's being shown, we need to acknowledge the fact that that is a reserve that's being
Yes.
spent in addition to what's being done with the cash carryover.
Yes, and when
anticipated
everything,
5.3.
yeah, and when everything is approved, I take that out because that's going to come basically out of our reserves, our checking account or whatever.
Right.
It's just so that you can see where we're at as far as a shortfall, rather than giving you the amounts and then you still have to try to figure it out on your own, is what I was trying to do.
And no, and I mean, the information is all there.
Mhm.
Like I say, I just, when I was going through, it took me a while to get to where I found what that miscellaneous revenue was. I had to get to page 28 of that report to where I was able to identify the miscellaneous revenue. When I saw that, we had talked about potentially using $2.5 million of that. We had talked about maybe using the 3. And then I think at the end of the last meeting, the chairman had actually said, let's get rid of that.
Mhm.
Have it as a reserve. We'll put the funding back in potentially to the reserves, but we want to get rid of that. We're not putting that back in. If we do that, we're actually using the full 3.5 million in
Yes.
this scenario.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, that was all I had.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you. So effectively, after I think Mary went on her tangent, or maybe that was me, about the ARPA PILT, we had talked about,
Someone did.
it's okay, it was a long day. So we were talking about utilizing that for the payroll, but then taking carryover and backfilling that reserve, right, as kind of a basis, right?
That was my.
Yeah, we just kind of swapped it out
Yeah.
so that we can get that off the books.
So I think in doing that, obviously that increases our shortfall. And if my numbers are right, that takes the shortfall to like 3.6 million. I don't know if you've ran that.
That's where we're at.
Okay.
Correct. We're on the same page now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is that how you're following? No? Okay. Okay, good. Everyone understand that? As far as shifting the funds, replacing the funds, the net effect is still. So even with the remaining amount of carryover would be about 1.7 million at that point, which leaves us with a shortfall of 3.6. I think if we're all on the same page there, we can kind of start chipping away at some of the different requests. And I don't know what your pleasure is there. Probably start with the outsides and then go to the components and see where we're at, or what's everyone else feeling?
That's what I would say. I think we've been pretty clear over the last couple of years. That's what direction we're going to end up heading anyway. So
It's part of, as I've reviewed some of these that I'm struggling with, is if we're not doing a cost of living raise for county employees, some of the outside agencies and some of the component units have included cost of living adjustments, percentages, costs. Some have, some haven't. But if we're not going to do a cost of living, then I don't believe that we should pay for others' cost of living. And I'm open to the conversation on that. But obviously that changes some numbers in that regard. One of them is quite significant, not on an outside agency, but a component unit. So I guess I'd be curious to hear everyone's thoughts on that, which would help with starting the conversation.
I'm on board with you with that, Mr. Chairman.
Me too.
Okay.
Agree.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the increase to Southwest Counseling is specifically for funding a cost of living increase that would match some of our earlier talks. But in my talks with them, they understand that that's probably not going to happen.
Okay.
But how much does that give us?
170,000.
Well, it's not much.
Okay.
That's a lot to me.
You're a rancher, I guess maybe it isn't so much. but-
So starting with the outside.
Do you want to start with outside agencies?
Yeah.
If we start with the optional, the first on the list is the Boys and Girls Club. And their current request is at 18.5.
And so I guess,
Which is $5,000 more than last year. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
yeah, it's about a 37% increase, but yeah, 5,000.
Well, that's when we considered cutting last year.
So I guess that's kind of we need to figure out. I mean, we've asked everyone to come in flat if they can. Some have had differing reasons for increases. Is it easiest to start flat with everyone, see where that lies? I mean, you want to go one by one?
You're right on with what I'm thinking, Mr. Chairman. That was exactly what I thought was start flat with everyone. There are some agencies that actually submitted for less, but I think with the information that we've provided and the financial condition that we've got, starting flat is a good place to start.
Flat on boys and girls? Any other thoughts?
Yep.
Okay. Climb, Wyoming is next, and they requested 3,000, which is a $1,500 increase.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting request. It was 0% increase because they asked for that last year, but really it's based off of what was funded, so flat would be 1,500.
Family Resources stayed the same at 20,000.
Good there.
Yeah.
Yep.
The food bank has a decrease of 2,600 and their funding request came in at 12,000.
Mr. Chairman, on the food bank, our contribution to them used to be in health insurance. And last year we ended that contribution as of the end of calendar year 25. So the remaining contribution was to fund that health insurance up until that point. So this would be a new request for a cash disbursement, which we have never provided the food bank,
I agree with that.
just to clarify.
Yeah, I believe it's a salary support is what the description says, which is a change in scope from what we've. Any thoughts on that?
Back it up to the original intent, I'd say.
Well, as I understand it, it was we covered the health insurance plan, which we're no longer doing. So it's a matter of whether or not we want to continue funding through a different structure, which would be for salary support.
Well, I think if you look, Mr. Chairman, it shows that they would currently have 212 days cash on hand, which is significantly higher than what we had recommended over the last couple of years. I don't know what you think with respect to that, but I would be fine just going to the $12,000 to start with and see where that leaves us moving forward, with that being their request. And then addressing this after we see where we're at with all of the changes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as I look through those, I mean, all of these organizations provide good services to our community, but I don't think it's fair that some of them expect us to reduce our reserves so they can preserve their reserves. So I'm going to be pretty critical over some of these requests.
Any other thoughts on the food bank?
I agree with Commissioner Richards.
I'll go with you.
Agree, yeah.
So we're cutting that one.
By how much?
Sounds like in full, if I'm understanding it right.
And then VIRS did not request this year. They have closed. So that gave us a decrease of 49,500. The youth home stayed flat with the operating of 62.5. They have a capital project that's been going on for the remodel. That increased to 93,200, but I want to say that that was not an increase made by them. That was an increase that the Gene put in for them. It started out with 76,000 left from the home or the building that was sold. And then we've been holding on to it, and now it's increased to 93,200. So I just wanted to point out that that wasn't an increase that they had a hand in.
And that really should come out of that savings from that youth home sale.
Yes, 76,000 of
Was
that
in
is.
reserves? Has that been held in reserves? Or where is that money?
No, that's in their budget allocation for capital. So it's been allocated to them to, the remodel project or study was supposed to happen last year, and I don't know why it's been delayed, but it's been held in their account under capital.
So it'd be part of the committed, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Good with youth home, staying flat.
Just to clarify, that amount, 155,700 includes the capital that we've already committed to them. And then how much additional operating request, cash distribution request?
62,500 is for operating.
And that is equal to what we provided last year?
Yes, correct. They stayed flat with that.
Once again, we're looking at an organization that has 350 days cash on hand.
Okay, the next one is Golden Hours Senior Center, and they also stayed flat at 165,000.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to say it, but I think this one is one that is ripe for some cut. When you factor in the capital expenses, the building, the maintenance we provide, the custodial services we provide, the amount we're funding Golden Hour Senior Center is kind of staggering per resident of the service area. I think a few months ago, I put together a spreadsheet of it and shared it with you. I mean, we're paying for so much of their operations and then also giving them a lot of cash while they have cash on hand. So I think this is one where I think we can discuss a cut, and I don't even think a cut hurts them because we're doing so much for them already.
Mr. Chairman, I seriously object. Statistics don't lie, but statisticians can make the numbers say different things. You're talking about the number of people served. You have Rock Springs people even coming over here. The issue is with the rising cost of food and the meal cost. If you want to keep it going and viable, I mean, they've got to be able to provide that. They're writing for grants, asking for donations to help cover food, but they're still not, if we cut them anymore, they're going to really be hurting into their reserves. So I object to that one. I think it should stay the same.
But I think the majority of organizations have cut into their reserves, and that's
Well, they have. Last year they cut into it pretty heavy.
kind of the whole point of this. I think it was mentioned earlier that why should these organizations be able to keep their reserves when we have to spend ours? I don't agree with that.
Well, I tend to agree with Commissioner Tolman, and I appreciate the work that Island did. It was a very in-depth piece of work that he did in coming up with the number of people served and things of that nature. I just look at this organization having spent quite a bit of time there over the last few years, and it is a bustling organization that provides great service for a lot of people. I see that. I understand that we are providing a lot of in-kind service for them. I could see a small cut with seeing where their reserves are, but we're not holding everyone to the 120 days cash on hand. I think this is one of the areas that I would like to see us, at least fund reasonably close to what we did last year. I've talked with their administration, and I think that they're doing some good things. They're trying to find ways to invest the funding that they've got. They've done some of that, so I think that they're doing some good things, and I just kind of have a soft spot because, like I say, I see those people there when I'm there, and there are a lot of people being served.
Well, if we base it on meals served, they're actually doing better than the Young at Heart, because you can't take the total population of the county. That just doesn't jive with the number of seniors served in each entity. That's what you have to look at. And that's where I'm saying your statistics are skewed.
Right. With all due respect, I don't think my statistics are skewed, because
Well,
the area residents served is the taxpayers who are funding this. And while I agree, I think supporting our senior centers is very important. I think it also needs to be somewhat proportional. The senior center in Rock Springs serves an area roughly double the population size as the Golden Hour, and we fund them only a small percentage more cash, and we're not funding them the additional $200,000 in in-kind services. So if we were to make this proportional, we would almost have to give Young at Heart Senior Center another $100,000 to $200,000 to make it proportional. Young at Heart has been cutting services because they're running almost in the red, if not in the red, while Golden Hour is taking advantage, not saying in the bad way, they're taking advantage of the fact that we're providing their all of their in-kind services and cash to be able to improve their position. I don't begrudge them that. But as we look to protect the interests of the entire county, we have to recognize that we're not funding other providers that provide similar services anywhere near the same level.
Well, just one more comment. I'm not going to belabor this, but Young at Heart is getting over $50,000 a month for their early learning center, which was supposed to help them be more self-sufficient. And they have a outreach health service, which was supposed to extend to Green River, which does not. I mean, so you can't compare unless you compare the number of people served, and Green River is holding a high priority. Rock Springs also has the city fund or providing the building for them. So if you look at us versus them, they're getting the same kind of support that this one is. I just support keeping both of those the same. I don't think they can take any bigger hits with the cost of food the way it is. So I'll just end it there.
They're difficult because they all provide a good service, and It looks like Golden Hour intends to spend about 65,000 out of their reserves to offset payroll expense for this fiscal year, current fiscal year. I don't know that it's totally fair to compare the services that are offered. I can get into that with Young at Heart when we get there, but the difference is the amount of reserves that they have. And so I guess if you had those conversations, not that we would make a deep cut, but can they afford a cut based off a 342-day cash on hand?
Well, if they don't have reserves, I don't know if they need that much, but if they don't have reserves, they can't keep their food supply coming. Because those bills come in big,
Well, that's my
big
point. I mean, they do have
amounts.
reserves. They have almost a whole year. It's no different than us. You know, if we're having to dip into reserves to balance our budget, it's kind of the same effect. But
It's a substantial amount of reserves.
all right, keep it flat for now. We'll revisit.
So next is Young at Heart, and they stayed flat with a $185,000 request.
Young at Heart has obviously gone through quite a few administrative changes. They've got a new director they just recently hired. The board, as you know, I've reported on, is trying to make some policy changes. They are operating in the red. They have been. They are dipping into reserves, and they're going to more than likely be pulling out of some of their investment accounts, which would obviously still be reserves, to fund the next year. I would defend their request and appreciate them remaining flat, although they would certainly welcome more if the situation were different. I'm confident they're getting things turned around over there. They are looking into restructuring and trying to figure out what's working best. Their learning center is their moneymaker, and they are well aware of that. But they can only grow so much with the space they're given. And so I think they're on the right track, but it's going to be a difficult ride for them as well. I'm open to other views.
I would agree with you, Mr. Chairman.
Flat for now.
Yeah.
So the Star Transit is at 125.10, and that's an increase of $32,410, which is 35%.
Rob, you got any insight there?
Yeah, in reading this request, they're basing it on the ridership and the agreement that apparently it's stating that their funding request is commensurate with the increase in ridership for the past fiscal year, which they're stating the BOCC resolution states authority will provide a level of transportation service that is based on funding and ridership. So I think that's what is driving this increase, this ask for an increase from them. And they have seen tremendous increases in ridership. I mean, it's been month after month after month, their ridership is increasing. And
I can't remember if they raised their fees. I went off someplace else for a minute but have they raised what they charge?
I honestly can't remember for sure, Commissioner.
They hadn't when I was the liaison, and so I couldn't remember if that had.
Seemed to me that early on, when I first started as liaison, that they were looking at doing that, and I'm not sure whether they did increase fees or not.
And I know they serve folks that aren't flush with cash, but I think that's the situation we're looking at with everybody. They really aren't any different than any other organization we're talking about. So that may be something that they have to have they just have to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with the reasoning in their request. It makes it sound like we have to fund whatever their ridership is, and I disagree with that. I think it's wonderful that they're growing it, and it's tough to support a 35% increase when we're cutting others or keeping them flat.
I agree.
Also within their request is a 3% cost of living adjustment. The amount that would be paid for by the county was $1,608. So my recommendation would be to go flat.
Yep.
And see where that takes things. Open to opposing views.
I would be okay with that, Mr. Chairman, with the concept that based on where we end up, we could potentially look at this at a later date.
Everyone good with that?
I am.
So up next is SkyWest Airlines, and that has an increase of 47,154, with the total funding request of 896,398.
We don't have any choice on that one, I don't
No,
think.
that is one that we are committed to.
We always have a choice. We can end commercial airline service to Sweetwater County, but I am not a fan of that choice, so.
And then after that is the Castle Rock Hospital District at 1.7. It's a $150,000 increase from last year. However, they're still $100,000 below what they're allowed to at the 1.8.
I kind of take this one as a win, Mr. Chairman. They had said that they were going to come in at the full 1.8, so I see that. And if this is one that we are tied into a contract with. So the 1.7 actually sounded pretty good to me when I saw that.
The only question I had on that is it does include a cost of living adjustment. And unless the net operating loss exceeds the 1.8. So I'm not, off the top of my head, I can't remember how that ties. You know, it's obviously the contracts to provide ambulance service. I assume a portion of that is obviously payroll, but I don't remember how we've dealt with that in the past in regards to cost of living, but we've granted one the last 3 years, so I guess we'll take it as a win for now and maybe look into that.
Take it out of all of them, though. Just take out the COLA out of all of them and see where we're at.
Well, I think the difference here is we have a specific contract that says we will fund them up to 1.8. And it's one we inherited and we have to abide by. And I at least give them some credit for keeping it under the 1.8 year after year.
So the next one is the co-op, the 4-H extension. They stayed flat with 119,660.
That's a contract also.
They did offer a cost of living there as well, but I believe the university is paying that based off they haven't had an educator for the last few months, so no change to our contract, which my understanding is they have a new educator that was,
Interim.
they've hired one. We received that notice.
Matt is the
Matt.
university lead, but he's just filling in till they can get one hired.
He's permanent according to the letter we received.
Oh, I didn't read it that way, but maybe. Could be.
He's the one that sent in the funding request.
Okay.
And then the guardian and the public defender, this is like a co-op type situation that we're tied to. I did lower the guardian to 150 based off of our history of what we've been paying. And then I decreased the public defender to 190. Also based off the history.
That'd be for the guardian ad litem.
Yes. And then Title 25, because of the history of the last 2 years when we've had to ask for budget amendments, the hospital did increase this to $370,000. And then we stayed 15,000 with our the professional service fees that the county covers directly. Carbon County Fire stays at 12,000. We haven't used that the last couple of years. We only pay it if we need it. But 12,000 seems to be where we're at from year to year.
They did not up their contract when we did the new contracts with the others.
Mhm. And then the Joint Powers Board decreased by 19,530, which gave them 993,531. And then the Conservation District went up 40,000 and asked for $160,000 total. Which
That
is
was
the 33.
the cost of elections they have to pay for, and if they have to do a mill levy, that was the
Yes.
addition.
Yes, the way I read it is that she wants to try to get people to get on board with the mill levy. So she wants to try to educate people on that. Those ones all kind of go a little bit quicker because we're kind of tied into a lot
What
of
do you
those.
get for your total now with those adjustments?
Well, I think we need to have a discussion on the Conservation District. I
Yeah.
don't believe that they pay for the election. That would come out of,
Yes, check with Cindy. They do have to now.
their share.
And they have two things on the ballot, or they have to pay more because they have 2 or 3 people up for reelection plus the mill levy.
I don't think it's $40,000 more.
No, but they need to hire a consultant. They were trying to get a consultant group to try to get the mill levy through. Otherwise, they'll never get it passed. I'm not sure they will anyway. How much is I think the county thing was, does it say how much they have to pay the clerk? Is it per person that runs or just a flat fee for being on the ballot?
So it's different every time. But I'd have to go look up.
I thought it was like 15,000 or something, but I can't remember. Well, it's probably in their budget.
Yeah, just saying that they're requesting additional funding for education and an outreach campaign.
Yeah, I met with them at their last meeting and had given them a couple of names that Stiefel had recommended to help them with their information campaign. There were some legal questions as to how funding could be used by the Conservation District. I think they got some answers from Cindy with respect to that. I think she had talked with John DeLeon. So they have been trying to come up with a way to get this initiative on the ballot and try and make it successful. I think we've been trying to help them get to this point for as long as I can remember on this board. And I think we need to try and help them if they determine that this is something that they can do in the short time allotted between now and the November election. I think there's some concern as to whether the information campaign can be done in that amount of time. And I don't know whether Tom Burris has had further contact from the consultants that he had talked with, but the last that I had spoken with them, they were still intending to move forward with that initiative.
They made a motion at their last meeting to do that, a quarter of a mil.
Any other thoughts? It's hard for me to approve without understanding the costs that are associated with the increase. I mean, we've encouraged them to approach a mill levy, and so it seems a little bit contradictory to not support them in that effort. But
We gave them a heavy cut last year, 60,000. They barely could.
I would say that I also don't want to see the fact that we give them a 33% increase and then there's not enough time. And so that becomes the new norm for their funding requests. So whatever agreement or whatever we decide moving forward, I think needs to spell out the fact that X amount is set aside for their campaign and election efforts. And if it's not spent, then that goes back to the general fund, for my opinion.
Chairman, I'd agree. And I think we can earmark funds that way effectively going forward. We've made use of those funding agreements, and I'm sure we can make further use of them.
So leave that as is for now. Okay.
So that is everything for the outside agencies. Did you want to move on to the component units?
Have you been adding as you go or you can't do it yet?
Oh, yeah. So we're at, 5,347,406 shortfall. So it
That again?
changed, what was it this morning?
49,000.
So about 40,000.
It was 5,665,000 on ClearGov.
The numbers I show, our cuts are $49,410 that we just made. On to component units.
So if we go over the events complex first, what are the details of that agreement? Are we taking their capital out or leaving it in?
Yeah, so the idea with that being passed now would be they will come off of the capital committee, utilize the funds from the HHR money towards any capital improvements they want to make. However, any of the committed capital that they have that we approved last year would still be committed here with
Okay.
the current budget. So more or less, we would use that committed funds to see their projects full or see their projects through from last year. Anything fiscal year 27 moving forward, they would utilize the HHR funds for their capital. Your understanding, Candy? Yeah.
Okay, so take out the new request for this year then.
Yeah, so I believe in their request, it was around 355.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their operating request stayed flat at the 1.873,300. That doesn't include COLA, if you all have taken COLA out.
Yeah, I believe 40% or so. I've got it right here. Yeah, about 40% of our funding would go towards that, which is around 9,500. And their budget was 171 less than last year, I think we figured. So I believe the capital obviously speaks for itself, so that makes that a little easier. That offers a little over 355 for savings. And if we're not doing a COLA, then that'd be another 9410, I believe.
So lower the operating to
9487 was the number, so.
did you want it to go down a percentage?
No, so I've just taken basically the 1,873,300 minus their COLA, if we're staying consistent, which is a reduction of 9487. To be 1,863,808 excuse me, 813, 1,863,813.
1,863,813.
Mm-hmm.
So taking out their capital except for the two projects we have ongoing and then reducing the operating, that brings us to 4.9.
What was their total capital? I know it was 359.35, right? 355,935.
355,935, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Everyone good with that?
Yep.
The library also stays the same at 3,290,273. And they have a capital project for 185,000 that is ongoing for the parking lot that was approved last year. From my understanding, they are just barely starting on that project. So that will be tied into committed.
I believe same for them. Appreciate the efforts into the decrease. They did have cost of living figured into their number at 2%, which would be $47,188. Everyone good there?
So decrease it by that amount.
Yeah.
What was that again?
47,188.
So that brings them to 324, 3085.
$3,024,024, is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. The museum has an increase of 29,246. So their total funding request is 379,246.
Mr. Chairman, that 379,246 was the amount of their request last year. We actually approved $350,000. Their ask that they were looking for originally to fully fund was $421,000. My suggestion to them was to make the same request as last year, understanding that it may be cut. They are using reserves. If at the $421,000, they would have basically their belief 120 days cash on hand. At the $379,000 ask, it would be about 94 days cash on hand is what they were projecting, I believe. So that's a little bit of background with respect to what took place in the museum board budget hearing as they were preparing this.
Thank you, sir. Thoughts on museum, commissioners?
I think it'll be flat with last year. Or current year, I guess I should say, however you want to look at that.
So what would that be, 350 then?
Yes. Southwest Counseling has an increase of 170,238. That's 28.37% increase. Last year, they received 600,000.
I believe that's
Chairman, that
100%
additional 170 is for COLA. So I think we can cut that out of there.
$70, $230. Okay.
So put them back to the 600,000.
Yeah.
What I think.
Okay, so the hospital will be done with the lab project, so there's nothing there. And then 276, 350 is gonna be part of the OB remodel, which is a committed project carryover. So their maintenance request is at 612, 445.
They've always been pretty flexible and helped out whenever we needed. And I think we also need to remember that money goes towards maintenance of the building. It's not
Mhm.
surgical equipment or anything like that. It's just maintenance of our building. So need to keep that in mind.
So the OB unit is, where's that in capital? It's not in this part, right?
It is not in capital because that is a project that they handle on their own. So it's 276, 350. The original amount, I believe, was over 500,000 though. So they've made progress on that project.
It's committed funds though.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the total?
Their total is 888, 795.
Okay, as you have it there, okay.
We're good with that?
Yep.
And then the Board of Health also stayed flat. Oh, no. Yeah, they did. Coming in at 329, 660.
I mentioned in my comments, but we did look at the funding for the $205 million that the state gets, and they looked at it, and so they've been trying to find ways to find some funding, but didn't apply. But they're going to be moving down there with their days cash on hand if this trend continues as well. So they're certainly not sitting flush.
And no cost of living for them. The hospital had one, by the way, but they're taking care of that in-house. And I believe that's all of them, right? For component units.
Yes.
So what's the new total then?
We are at a shortfall of 4,735,312. 312.
What was it total expenditure on these component units?
Total savings, you mean?
No, what's the total at the bottom with these changes?
For component units only,
Yes.
7,516,453.
And it was at 8,128,547.
Mr. Chairman, what are you showing with your new number?
I have got. Total reduction of 661,503, which $2.955.
I haven't been following. I just wonder where you were with respect to that. You said it 661,000 you're decreasing.
503.
Yeah.
I'm missing one number that you got. I was missing it on our last number also, so. I've got 3.1 roughly.
That be, you got Southwest Counseling in there?
Was that included in your 660?
Yeah.
No, I'm taking the full 660. I've still got 3.1. But like I say, I've not been keeping track of each of the numbers as we've been doing them.
What were you showing as the shortfall?
4,735,312.
And that is with no,
Not using the reserves. The 5 million that I put into reserves.
You mean a carryover? You put the carryover into reserves? No, we use those, right?
I put 5 million into reserves. That was from the carryover until
Yeah,
you
that's
guys
what I
gave me
said,
permit.
yeah.
Yeah. Until you say I can use it, that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah, yeah. That was my argument. They're ongoing things. They should not have been put into reserves.
Well, it's just like earmarked for there. So that we have, so we know how much is there, I guess. It's easy to track.
That's what you had looked at, Keaton, on your worksheet, right? Was to use those carryover.
well, it's confusing because we're using ARPA pill, we're replacing the carryover to replenish ARPA pill. So then obviously that reduces the amount that's available for carryover unless you want to dip into reserves, which some would argue is the same thing. So if we're keeping that whole without dipping into reserves, I'm showing that we're 2.9 shy.
I agree. We're just looking at it a little differently than what Rebecca.
That's using all of the reserves?
The same conclusion. We're just looking at it a little differently.
No, she's using zero. She's saying, you tell me what to do.
Right. And I'm saying that it should be used and it would make our shortfall.
The what? The 5 million?
Yeah, if we use the carryover, we wouldn't have much of a shortfall.
We still do. Ultimately, if we don't replace the money that we're calling ARPA built in reserves again, we're actually
Right.
funding with reserves. That portion otherwise.
And I did use 2 million of carryover for the committed capital.
Projects, yeah.
Well, it's progress.
Mhm.
Any other thoughts?
And did you
Options.
want to go over capital? I am meeting with the capital committee next week to update the projects and the carryover and see where we're at on that. So if there's anything that you want us to discuss in that meeting as far as the budget goes, we can.
Before we move off of that, in revenues, you show ARPA, the regular pill is shown as governmental income. Miscellaneous is the ARPA pill or whatever you call it. So it's already been counted in our revenues.
So the
The only thing
pill,
not
the
counted-
intergovernmental is what should be coming into us that comes in every year. The ARPA is the money that we've been setting aside in reserves that we've been tracking for a
Okay.
few years. So
Okay,
it's
so-
two separate ones.
Okay, all right. So I
Yes.
thought that one was in our income. Okay.
They both are in our income. I just have them on separate line items. So the PILT that we get in every year is an intergovernmental,
Right.
because that comes from the state. The amount that we've been holding in reserves, I put under miscellaneous just so that we can see what the bottom line is
Right.
in using that. But it's not going to stay there. Once the budget is done, it'll come out of the
Right.
fund.
My contention is that this budget could be balanced if we use our carryover.
Yes.
Carryover is money that is going to be existing at the end of the year, so I don't know why you're calling it reserves. It's projects that should be carried through and used. I don't see why you call it reserves. It's totally confusing.
You're correct in the respect that the carryover should be used. It will not balance our budget because it will decrease our reserves by the amount of the ARPA PILT that was not taken into account and is now being shown as a revenue on our statements. that
Okay,
we've-
yeah, I follow
So
that.
that's where we're seeing
The difference,
the
yeah.
difference and seeing a deficit at this point in time, because our intent, if I understood correctly, when the chairman talked with Rebecca at the last meeting about once again, ARPA PILT, it was to take that money and use it
Right.
so that we did not have that designation any longer, but then replace that in the reserves with another equal amount. And
Yes.
that has not been done here with respect.
Well, I do not think it should be replaced in the reserves because it never was. We made it a reserve, but really it technically never was a reserve. It was money given to us to spend during hard times and we did not spend it. We shoved it in reserves. My thought is that we are in hard times. I don't believe in throwing money away, but I think that we have money available to balance this budget. It's not that difficult.
That's
It's very difficult, actually. And my argument would be every year that I've been on here, we have dipped into reserves every single year.
Well, why did the number grow if we dipped in?
Which number?
The reserve amount. You came into this commission with 25 million saved in reserves.
That's not true.
We have more than that. No, we locked in 25 million and it's grown. I don't see any basis during hard times, but everybody's taken a cut. I don't have a problem with using some of that. I know we have to keep it to protect ourselves, but it's just what you're calling reserves as the ARPA and the carryover. That's what my issue is with.
But when I took office, there was $27 million in general
That's
reserves.
right.
There was an additional $6 million in ARPA reserves that the previous administration, yourself included, had put into reserves. You also committed $3 million towards a hospital project and purchased a facility that was not accounted for until we became into office and took that money out of reserves to fund those. There's nowhere else to put available leftover ARPA funds within the general account. So it's been in reserves.
Okay.
We hashed this out earlier that you wanted to utilize that to get it off the books. I agree. So we're taking that out of the reserves, utilizing that towards an expenditure within wherever that may be, payroll. We have a carryover that's coming through to balance that amount that was coming out of reserves. It was agreed that we would just replenish that as we're having these conversations and start cutting or figuring out what funds we want to use. If you want to continue to use reserves to balance the budget, then that's your opinion and that's fine. But ultimately, we are continuing to fund many outside organizations and component units with the use of our reserves. So my question would be, what happens when we can't do that anymore?
Well, I would agree with you if our reserves have been declining, but they have not. So that's all I'll say.
But a large portion of that is because of unused carryover funds, right?
I don't care what you call it. I'm just saying, if you came in
Well, I
with.
can't call it reserves, so I might as well call it carryover because you don't like either of them. So what is it? I mean, it's unfilled positions, it's capital projects that don't get completed. We budget amount that doesn't get spent, and so that becomes carryover, which I look at as reserves, but you look at it as should just spend it. And so, I mean, I'm just trying to reason with you. That's the reason these grow is because they don't get finished or they come in under budget or whatever the case is. But then we have other needs that we're spending money on, and so That's part of the difficulty, and that's why it's not easy.
It's not easy. So I won't argue with you further, although I have a different opinion.
I think the fundamental point in this is we want it to be transparent in what we're doing regardless. And that's by having this conversation about that money being used as a revenue source, I think we've taken a veil down and shown what that is. And then we can make the decision from that point in time, how much of the reserves we want to use to fund this budget. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody felt like there was no veil there.
I still think it's a bad plan if we use reserves and we're funding organizations that have plenty of money. I think that's bad planning. It solves a problem for today, but it doesn't do anything down the road. And we're gonna probably have 2 or 3 more years of this coming. So if we're gonna start spending our reserves now so that others don't, I think we're going the wrong direction.
So, Mr.
Where
Chairman, our current budget, we're looking at what, 59 million in expenditures? Becca, is that what
Yes.
and we have, after this current budget, we're gonna have $39 million left in our reserves. Does that sound right?
If we move forward as we had on this sheet, yes, that's what I've got.
So at the end of our budget, we're gonna have 7 months, 8 months cash on hand. And we're funding entities that have over a year cash on hand. And hearing Commissioner Jones say this, but that's the reality we're working with. Yes, we have cash on hand, but we're reducing our cash on hand to fund entities that don't want to reduce their cash on hand, that have more days of operating ability than we do. And we don't have a statutory obligation to fund a lot of those organizations. We do it because that's what our taxpayers want us to do. But in the end, we have to focus on our statutory obligations first. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but Commissioner Toman pointed out that the Rock Springs funds capital maintenance, et cetera, for the Rock Springs Senior Citizen Facility. And then we help with an additional cash distribution. They're not doing that here in Green River. Green River is not funding anything for that senior center except for a very small distribution. So we're funding all of that capital and maintenance and the cash distribution for Green River. And as much as I like that center and what they do, they need to be in front of the Green River City Council telling them they need to pay their fair share. Because I don't think it's fair that we're expected to pay 100% of their expenses when Rock Springs is stepping up over in Rock Springs and paying a very large share of their expenses.
Commissioner Richards, I have one point. I agree with pretty much everything you said, but I do believe, and this goes back to the time when I was liaison at the Green River Center, that Green River does have a small amount that they actually provide. It seemed like it was like 20,000.
My understanding is 20,000 specifically for their Meals on Wheels, Wheels program.
But there is
18,000.
from there.
It's 18,000.
And we're funding nearly $500,000 when you take in-kind and direct distributions. Nearly $500,000 to one organization.
22,000 from the city of Green River. It's in their budget form. So where would we like to go from here?
Let's go to capital.
Okay. You had that. Some of those were included in the different requests, but I think you had a breakdown in ClearGov, Rebecca, that kind of
Yeah, and there's a breakdown
committed new requests.
in the summary that I sent you on its own page where we did the ranking and whatnot.
Yeah.
But let me take out. the new for the events complex. So for committed core, we have it at the 1,565,153. Committed for component units is at 471,100. Priority for the core is at 644,961. And new request for core county is 3,552,702. So the total capital as of right now is 6,233,916.
So that hasn't been updated in ClearGov then?
No,
Okay.
no, I'm just doing it on my spreadsheet because where the ranking is at. I did remove the events complex, their capital. I did put that in a ClearGov, that 355. And it isn't, it's all in ClearGov, it's just by department, so it's kind of harder to.
Well, Mr. Chairman, what I did, not saying this is correct, but just as a suggestion, I took the last three priority items out, which would be a service truck for Road and Bridge was $275,000. A loader for Road and Bridge was $400,000, and a backhoe for Road and Bridge, which was $185,000, and took $860,000 from the capital requests for the core county.
Basically the bottom three ranking on the capital.
Then if you actually look, and we had some conversations about this with the capital committee, and I think we'd want to talk with them a little bit more. But the next item that was ranked 13th is a $789,000 item, which is an end dump combination of plow water sander truck. So that would be another almost $800,000 if we were to take the 13th priority item out. Not saying that that would be what we want to do, but that was another thing that I had looked at.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to leave the committed the way they are. So really the way I'm looking at it is just new requests. As far as component units, we already addressed that. All of those are events complex. So mainly it's just the new requests on county core.
Yes.
Okay. Which is 4.2 million.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, total new request 4.2.
Okay, so you said that first number was 860, Rob?
860, yeah, and if you
Yeah.
took the other one out, the total would be 1,649,410.
What are you doing in your calculations? You taking them all four of them, or just the three?
I took all four, which gets us to 1.3. You said 1,649,410.
Yeah, 1,649,410.
Any thoughts or comments on that?
Like keep in the back of our mind, maybe if we, depending on where we land, to put that in, dump back in there. Something as versatile as that is only gonna get, well, they're all gonna get more expensive, but versatility of that is a good piece of equipment.
enough for today. Keep going.
You need to get to graduation.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to dip out, but I think if
Good for now.
I added that right, that leaves us with 1-3. Would obviously need Rebecca to verify that, but
Do you want me to take out the last 3 or 4 then for capital or leave it?
I would say take them out for now.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to chip away and have some conversations. What
If
that
the
looks
truck
like.
works on the road, we can take it out of reserves later.
We're just gonna take it all out of reserves. Couldn't help but stir that pot. What time?
It's
I wonder
just
what
what
it's
you call
not.
reserves.
Right.
That-
I know you're
It's just
so-
what you're calling reserves.
For the
that's
bottom
causing-
3 or the bottom 4?
Causing the problem.
4, okay.
Where'd that treasurer go? He left the room when we could ask him a hard
He gave
question.
up on it. Yeah.
Wasn't there something with reserves and the airport and the only reason that we could move forward?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I wasn't,
Out there.
couldn't remember that.
The 799.
Did you get all those, Rebecca? I think it's a decent start. We still have some work to do, but
I think we made some progress.
Yeah, I'm just making the last update. So that, taking those bottom 4 out leaves us at 3,085,902.
sorry, one more time, 3 million.
$3,085,902. So we do only have one workshop left. So is there anything that you guys need me to do on my end to help with the process?
Find some money.
Okay, that I can actually do.
Well, I think it's there. It's in carryover. The money is in carryover.
Do you
Sorry.
want me to,
It's the truth.
do you want me to research anything about the cash on hand for the outside agencies and come up with like a spreadsheet so where all the information's in one spot? Okay,
I think if you can just get us where you're at now. with
Okay.
Everything you've got, we can look at it. And then I think.
and then I will have last payroll was done yesterday, so that should hard post today sometime, but I didn't have a chance to work on it yesterday. So I'll have the final numbers for the payroll carryover at the next meeting, along with an updated carryover of capital. So the numbers might change a little bit.
Mark sent us an email yesterday about, because-
Taxes.
Yeah, did you get?
Yeah, those are all tax receivables, and so those move out from like our current asset into a receivable on our financials. And so it's not anything that we currently budget for,
Oh, okay.
if that makes sense.
Okay.
He does his own spreadsheet and then kind of does a budget. Because mineral taxes, because of Senate File 60, it's such a,
Plus,
it's so hard to track
The
now.
turning factor of that, I think, was the fact that
Yeah.
the last 4 months are off 14%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something we need to look at. I went out and did an AI research on all the mineral tax values and ad valorem values in the state yesterday, just to see what AI would come up with on it. And really, the outlook that AI has given keeps our mineral valuations looking similar over the next year to 2 years. So I was a little concerned with seeing what the price of gas had done and things of that nature. And then seeing that off 14%, but maybe our revenues might have been too high on mineral taxes. But I think we got to go with the numbers we've got, and I think it's pretty good. But that was concerning yesterday to see again that decrease.
well, my numbers are matching yours, so that's good. That's good. Took us first year or 4 years, but I feel like I'm finally learning. So if we use 100% of carryover, we are still short 1.3 million.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you would provide that to me when you get a minute
Sure will. Of
with your numbers, I'd appreciate it.
And you provide it to all of us.
course.
It's an updated version that you did, right? Thank you. That was appreciated.
Yeah. And I'll still want you to verify them, but I they balance. So
That's a good sign.
you good enough for now? Okay. We having fun yet?
Getting closer.
Still going to the Thai restaurant?
Are you gonna go with us?
No.
What?
We can get you a Happy Meal across the street.
We'll appreciate everyone's work. We'll continue to chip away. I think we can get there with one more. Was our next one after the next meeting, workshop wise?
No, we have a workshop at the next meeting.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Okay.
We're gonna be here all night on that one.
We'll get there. I'm confident.
Well, thanks for wising up, guys. That was very, very nice of you.